In January of 1362, an entire civilization disappeared in a single night. Not from war, not from plague, not from conquest, from water. One storm, one tide, and a city so completely erased that for centuries, historians called it a myth. They called it the Atlantis of the North. They were wrong, because the sea kept its secrets until fishermen began pulling strange things from their nets: stone walls, bronze coins, and the ruins of a church buried deep under mud. Rungholt was real, and what happened to it should terrify us all. To understand what was lost, you have to understand what Rungholt was. By 1300, Northern Europe was booming. Trade routes linked England, Scandinavia, and the Baltic. And on islands off the coast of what is now Germany stood Rungholt, rich, organized, and deeply connected to trade. This was no forgotten village. Merchants dealt in salt, cattle, and cloth. The city had its own harbor, weighing house, seal, churches, and raised dikes. Records from the time described a place of unusual wealth and sophistication. They had built something extraordinary on land that had no right to feel secure. Because Rungholt stood on the Wadden seacoast, a flat, dangerous world of marshes, mudflats, and storm tides. The North Sea did not just border this region, it owned it. People knew the risk. They built higher dikes. They drained land. They pushed the sea back year after year. Until the night they didn't. January 15th. 1362. The skies over the North Sea turned black. A massive storm struck the coasts of Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands. The locals called it Grote Mandrenke, the Great Drowning of Men. Tens of thousands may have died. Entire islands were erased. Coastlines changed. But Rungholt suffered something worse than damage. It vanished. The dikes held for a while, long enough for people to think they were safe. Long enough to go to sleep. Then the surge came. Not from the front, from behind. Water cut through the marshes, the lowland, and the channels people had built themselves, and within hours, Rungholt was underwater. Not flooded, submerged. When the storm was gone, there was nothing left. No ruins above the waterline, no map, no clear trace, just flat water and silence. Then came the second death. Not drowning, but forgetting. Within generations, people argued over whether Rungholt had ever existed. By the 1600s, many called it a legend, a warning story, a city supposedly punished by God. A real catastrophe became a morality tale. Victims became sinners. Truth became myth. Rungholt was not forgotten because it was unreal. It was forgotten because it was terrifying. If one prosperous city could be erased by one storm, what did that mean for every other city built beside the sea? Then, in 1921, a schoolteacher named Andreas Busch walked the mudflats at low tide and found cut stone in patterns nature did not make. He kept digging. Others kept finding artifacts in fishing nets, coins, pottery, bones, bells, walls. And later, sonar and marine archaeology revealed the scale of what lay beneath the Wadden Sea. Not one lost village, but a drowned landscape of settlements, structures, and a major church. Rungholt was real, and it was not alone. That is why this story still matters. Rungholt is not just medieval history. It is a warning. The people there were not fools. They were builders, merchants, engineers, and survivors. They had every reason to believe they had solved the problem. They hadn't. And today, hundreds of millions live where land meets rising water, trusting barriers, infrastructure, and time, just like Rungholt. At the edge, trusting the dikes, going to sleep. Rungholt still lies beneath the Wadden Sea. At low tide, if the mud shifts just right, you can still glimpse the outlines. Walls, streets, the ghost of a place history tried to turn into a myth. It wasn't a myth. It was a city full of people who thought they were safe. The question is not whether the sea will rise again. The question is, who won't be ready? If history left this out of your textbook, now you know why. Subscribe, because the stories that matter most are always the ones they didn't teach you.